Today's video is the first video in a series I call Shōwa Manga. Shōwa is the Showa era period in Japan, so the era from 1926 to 1989. That's when Emperor Hirohito's reign was. And I'm quite fond of late Showa era's manga, especially romantic comedies, and I have a few of them here in my collection. Today I present you a manga which I'm going to unbox, which is quite interesting. Oh. So I just unpacked the first 18 volumes of Akira Ose's Hatsukoi Scandal, First Love Scandal. It was published from 1980 until 1986, and in 1985 it won Shōgakukan's prize in the Shōnen manga genre. Hatsukoi Scandal's story takes place in Tokyo, or Tokyo suburbs, in the early 1980s. The boy here, that is the main character, his name is Tetsu. He's a sophomore in high school. He's a good guy, a bit an indecisive guy. He's in the kendo club and he has a good childhood friend, that's Kumi here. He's actually in love with Kumi, and Kumi is also quite interested in him. They are both not quite friends, but also not a couple yet. And this is the start from the manga, right from the beginning. It's not about if they have feeling for each other. They do, but they just don't know how to express it well. So Kumi, she's a strong-willed girl. She's in the art club in the same high school, and she doesn't really like his immature side. When he tries to at least twice kiss her in the first 2 volumes, she just slaps him or scratches his face. But she is quite supportive when he shows his mature side, and she is secretly waiting for him to become just a better, more mature man. There are many side characters in this manga, which makes this manga really great and rounded in reality. There is another character called Aizawa Taiko. Let me have an example how it looks like. She's Aizawa Taiko. She's a more mature girl, and she's a kind of loner in the class. She doesn't like to be in groups. She comes from a rich family and lives alone in a big mansion because her parents are divorced. And she's quite lonely and invites fake friends to throw a party and drink some booze. Tetsu tries to convince her that she needs to find real friends, and he's a real friend. And she quite likes him. She's actually a little bit in love with him and teases him. Gives him chocolate for Valentine's Day, and he doesn't quite know how to react to that. It's also interesting that the manga is not immediately like a love triangle, like for example Kimakure Orange Road, because Kumi and Aizawa, they don't meet in the first 2 volumes. They just meet at the very end, I think, of the 2nd volume. So it's not a classical love triangle manga. Let me show you a little bit the covers of the manga, because I quite like the covers. That is cover 2. In the back you have 2 other side characters. I found the first volumes in my very first trip to Japan more than 20 years ago, and then later on I looked in Mandarake for further volumes, and I just found until volume 8. And now I have all 18 volumes. I like this cover here a lot, looks great. It's written here that the manga won the first prize in Shōnen Manga 1985, Shōgakukan, and the last volume. After Hatsukoi Scandal in 1986, he started to draw seinen manga, and today he only draws seinen manga in the same style, so his style really fits like serious drama seinen manga. I really like this manga because I really like the characters. I think they're really fleshed out. This is something which I miss a little bit from like more recent shonen romance comedies, which are mostly more like zany comedies or have a lot of fan service, which I like, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just want a more realistic story, which this one totally is. Let me show you some examples of what I'm talking about, also of the drawing style, and you get like a feeling for the manga. So this really looks a little bit like Adachi Mitsuru in the beginning. Like the main character realizes that he actually would have a date with Kumi, the main girl, and he totally forgot it. So of course she's rather pissed at him. This character here is really great. His name is Takuya. He's a fan of Bruce Lee. His nickname is Lee. He's really strong in fighting and he really likes to play the loner guy. The loner guy who likes to go to his friends and ask them for money because, you know, best friends, they just lend each other money, right? And so on. But he's actually a good guy. He fights for the weak, and but he's also a bit a troublemaker at school. He doesn't follow rules at all. So she really reminds me a bit of Ayukawa Madoka in Kimagure Orange Road. But keep in mind this manga came out 4 years out earlier in 1980. And sometimes you have also really like the emotions of the characters, like literally almost exploding. So like this. One thing I like about Hatsukoi Scandal is that it's really grounded in reality, and it has a lot of allusions to things which happened or were like important for the early 1980s Japanese culture, and just culture in general. So for example, there's a scene where Tetsu's older brother comes drunken back home from work, and he's like lamenting the death of John Lennon, and he sings Yesterday. And this is just one example. Another example is they mention Clint Eastwood, or they mentioned Bruce Lee. They also mention Seiko Matsuda, the famous pop singer. Newer manga, manga in general, but especially like a shonen manga or also shoujo manga, they make allusions to like really famous pop cultural things, but they also censor it for some strange reasons, probably out of copyright fears. They do it nowadays, but back then it was no problem to like mention something like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or something else, and I really like that. It gives the manga a little bit more weight, so it's less, it becomes just more realistic. If you want to see more of this kind of like unboxing videos or this kind of like short impressions and reviews about Showa era manga, please let me know in the comments down below, and see you next time. Goodbye!